Let's get to the college football playoff games here, Emory. And they are both on Saturday. The first one, TCU, Michigan. Michigan's laying 8 points. The total is 58.5. I don't even know what bowl game. The second one's the Peach Bowl. I don't even know what bowl game the first one is.
I think the
What is it?
Fiesta.
Yeah, that sounds right. Fiesta. Okay.
Listen, that total is too high, I think. I feel like TCU's offense, for how good it's been, part of me feels like it's one-dimensional. A part of me feels like it's Quentin Johnson deep down the field. Hopefully, you can make a play, and that's it. Or Max Duggan scrambling, making a play, and you don't want to give them the tag of Cinderella because they have earned the right to be there. They are a Big 12 champion, but I like Michigan's defense. I think Michigan is probably one of the more fundamentally sound defenses in college football. And I think their defense, along with the way they can run the football, this is old school Michigan. We're talking about the Michigan offensive line. We're talking about a Michigan tailback. And we're talking about a defense of Michigan, a defensive front seven of Michigan. This, to me, is just a bad matchup for TCU. So I'm laying these points with Michigan, but I'm taking the under. I think TCU's ability to really create chaos early in the game, and their defense can fly around the football. They'll make a few plays. So I think the under is not going to be. I don't think the total is going to be a big high scoring affair. I think we're in a lower scoring type game, something around the lines of 24-13, which would definitely help Michigan cover, but also help us cash the under as well.
That would be way under. With the total at 58.5, way under. It does kind of feel like Michigan's going to run them over. We shall see if TCU's front seven can hold. They got to just totally sell out against the run and hope McCarthy has a bad game. The nightcap is the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Ohio State is getting 6.5 points. When's the last time Ohio State was getting 6.5 points? The total is 62.5. A lot of talent in this game, Emory.
Yeah, and this is something, if you're a scout, this is the type of game where you get some questions answered, right? Because here's some of the questions. How can CJ Stroud play versus pressure versus a muddy pocket? Well, guess what? He's going to get pressure in this bowl game against Georgia, with Georgia's ability to apply pressure with their front four. They don't even have to blitz. Georgia can just apply pressure. So we'll see how well he does versus pressure. This is something like we saw in the Sugar Bowl with Justin Fields and Clemson. Well, if you take away his ability to run, then he can't beat you. Well, that kind of happened in the game. He got smacked in the hip and his ribs were bruised up. He had to play a one-dimensional game, and we saw him dominate Clemson with his arm. So can CJ Stroud answer these questions versus pressure against Georgia? On the other side, can Georgia and their quarterback, Stetson Bennett, make plays consistently in the passing game? Because when you're facing a Larry Johnson defensive front, they're going to be solid in that capacity. I know they didn't stop the run against Michigan. Granted, Michigan runs the ball better than Georgia. Georgia can run the football, but they're not the same since this year, in my opinion, as they were last year. So can Stetson Bennett make plays versus this Ohio State secondary, which has given up the big play? And we saw that against Michigan. So how better has this defense gotten for Ohio State? But can Stetson Bennett have to play this game and go toe-to-toe with CJ Stroud? Another question to me is, will Ohio State be able to find balance on offense? Can they run the football? Will they have some ability up front to win? Because their offensive line sometimes can find themselves get pushed around a little bit. So there's a lot of questions that's going to be able to be answered in this bowl game. And for me, I just feel like if you're looking at CJ Stroud, you have to really lock in. And the other side of it is whether or not Georgia's secondary. This is not one receiver you're worrying about in this bowl game, Ross. They got like 5. So Georgia's going to have to cover. Can you cover consistently against these elite options on the perimeter? That's what's going to be what you should watch for in this game.
That's interesting about the Stroud because that is the topic always is how does he do under duress? So people around him, he doesn't have that very often. So really good point. What are you doing with the spread here, Emory, with Georgia laying 6.5?
This they boy Vegas knows how to put this number at the right number, right? I feel like this is a good number. So I'm gonna lay the points with Georgia. Now the over under, I don't know, man. I feel like Georgia can. I could see both sides. I could see this being a game like Tennessee. I know the weather was a factor in that Tennessee game, but I could also see this game going back and forth, right? So you just don't know. So I would stay away from the total, but I'm gonna trust Georgia and their championship mindset and that ability to really disrupt things. Because CJ Stroud is not Justin Fields in terms of arm talent and in terms of escapability and running threat. So if you do get back, he's more like Dwayne Haskins in the sense that he has to be able to beat you with his arm because he's not the most mobile guy. And I think that's going to hurt him in this game. He really can't damage you and create on his own. Now, unless he turns to a different person, that'll be good for him from a draft prospect perspective. But in this game, I'm going to trust Georgia's ability to muddy things up front. So I'm going to lay the points with the Bulldogs.